Celestine Okeke is a team leader at SEEDI, of course, engaging in a lot of activities around the small and medium enterprises. So we touch base with him every now and then when we discuss in small and medium enterprises. Has a lot of on-the-road experiences. Celestine, good morning. Welcome to Business Morning.
Good morning, Boston. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate this. It's a Friday, so we understand everyone is trying to wrap up the week and the month, as it were. And then if you're paying salaries, I'm sure this is one of the days of your concern, isn't it?
Of course it is. We need to double our efforts.
Yeah, you would need to redouble efforts. So the central bank is redoubling efforts in terms of the small and medium enterprises, and everyone almost always seems to focus more on funding. We had a bit of a conversation in which you think that funding isn't everything. You believe that we should focus on a few other things beyond funding, or perhaps before we start funding the SMEs and looking at funding options and windows and who gets what.
Okay, so thank you for having me again. Funding is essential for every business, but I recall back in my commerce classes in the secondary school back then, we were taught the factors of production, where we were told that you need to have capital, labor, land, and the rest. So essentially, in the modern times now, what happens for a business is you first need to have an entrepreneur or a business owner who thinks through a business idea. And after thinking through the business idea, he or she then begins to mobilize resources. I'm using the word resources to mean resources, not just finances, which would also include human capital and the rest to plan through the business. And before you then say, let's invest in the business. So if an entrepreneur does not have the right resources, the right mindset, the right business idea, give him or her 100 million, it will amount to little or nothing. But if the entrepreneur has the right mindset, the right resources, give the guy or the lady 100,000, he or she will put it into very productive engagement. So access to finance is a good one, but first, let's be sure that the entrepreneurs we have are not the type we had under the UWIN program, who barely understood what business enterprise entails, starting, sustaining, and scaling up. And once they got the 10 million, the bulk of them got under the UWIN program. 1 year down the line, they were off the radar. We couldn't find them anymore. So we need to be sure that we are raising access to finance for people who are able to manage businesses, so we don't keep throwing funds into bottomless pits.
Okay, Celestine, let's focus on one particular subset of the SMEs, which is the creative sector, where you have a music production, as broadcasting, whatever you're doing, movies and all of that, movie music and all of that. The central bank and the bankers committee talking and asking these guys to step forward for a single-digit funding, which will help catalyze that sector. And try to take a look at the GDP of this sector over the last few quarters. It looks like, yeah, they're making some good moves. So what's your take on that? We need to fund them so that they produce better music, better movies, and what have you. Perhaps some of us may retire into making movies and producing music if we still have some talent there. Maybe.
Okay, so if you ask me, the creative industry in Nigeria has evolved over a long period of time. From when we had the first movies, the first modern movies, as we would like to call them, the Nneka, the Pretty Serpent, and the rest, they gradually moved based on their own understanding and knowledge, and they are where they are today. And now, this is not the first time the Nigerian government has tried to intervene for the creative industry. The Good Luck administration had an intervention for Nollywood. But what led to that intervention not achieving the desired result, the desired impact, is because we did not sit back to see what is the dynamics of funding the creative industry. What is the peculiarity of the creative industry? What are the constraints, the risk factors in the creative industry? How do we mitigate these risk factors? Bringing the creative industry professionals themselves to ask them, what is your business like? What are the risks involved? Get those who have failed in the creative industry, learn what led to their failure. Those who have succeeded, learn what led to their success. So you can blend all of this together and then launch an intervention that would address the peculiarities of the industry. But no, that is not happening. What we then do is to sit down and once in a while we launch 1 or 2 interventions, say, for the creative industry. Now, the creative industry professional has not been consulted with to a large extent. So when he or she goes to apply for the funding, and you're giving him a generic or a generic requirement that is developed with maybe the manufacturing sector in mind, and he or she looks at the requirement to asking him or her to produce to access the funding, it's not working. So the creative industry is a big one in Nigeria, but we need to first understand that it's a peculiar industry. It has its own dynamics. And for us to be able to fund this industry, we need to take all of this into consideration. You cannot give them funding for a 6-month period or a 12-month period, or even a 24-month period. It won't work. If you want them to create the kind of movies they would create that would sell and they would get their funding back, not even interest, and get your principal loan advanced to them back, you need to take all of these peculiarities into consideration. And you need to understand that we need to then tighten up our piracy laws in Nigeria, because as of today, some movie producers will tell you that even before they finish shooting a movie and releasing it into the market, pirates have taken over and they're selling it on the streets. So what is the anti-piracy law like in Nigeria? We need to tie all these loose ends, tie them together, so that when you then launch an intervention, the creative industry guy knows that if he takes 20 million from you and he's pledging maybe his property as collateral, when he produces the movie, somebody on the streets in Alaba or somewhere will not parade that movie and sell before he starts selling. So we need to get all of this in place so we don't hit the rocks again.
It could be anywhere. They could be in Abuja, anywhere. So, well, we just say Alaba, yeah, because but that's a very big market. But I just apologize to our friends there who are doing this. But you'll be surprised where pirates operate from. Sometimes from a face me, I face you, room and parlor apartment. I stumbled on one in one very no-cost area months ago. I'm not going to mention the location of it on air, but I tell you, I was shocked. I just opened the door, of course, and just saw a lot of room sets and what have you, with TV sets and all of that, just about 3, 4, 5 young boys in a room, semi-dark room, and I was like, is this a broadcast station? Then it hits me that, oh, they were just doing, they're just pirating movies and other things there. Celeste, this is one big problem. But again, if we look at the ICT sector, what lessons have we learned in terms of SMEs funding, understanding the sectors? The banks cannot have a desk for every business segment. I'm sure you're going to agree. I have a desk for oil and gas, I have for energy, for creative, for ICT, for mortgage. How many desks are they going to set up to understand the business sense and the risks involved in those sectors? So look at ICT, Celeste.
No, so the banks don't need to have decks for every sector. No, it doesn't happen that way. From my own knowledge and understanding, I was in the banking industry for a while. What the banks do is to come up with product papers. A product paper identifies the sector the banks are interested in lending to. They do their risk assessment criteria, the RAC, and they then say, okay, for us to be able to lend to the ICT sector, this is what we need to have in place, and this is what the entrepreneurs or the business owners need to bring for them to access the funding. So it's not about having decks for every sector, but about being able to develop business product papers that would address the peculiar needs of the sector. Now, let's even look at the ICT sector, for instance. There is no policy in place today, either from the Nigerian government or from the Bankers Committee, stating that this is how we want to finance the ICT sector in Nigeria. We don't have that policy in place. And because we don't have that policy in place, it becomes difficult to lend to the ICT sector, because the young man who is involved in ICT, either who is a programmer or software developer, or who is doing some stuff with the ICT in the ICT sector, when he or she approaches a bank to get funding, most times you are talking to a credit officer that does not even understand the fundamentals of a business. And because his bank has not developed a product paper for you, for your business, he cannot relate to what you are saying. And because the Nigerian government also has not developed a framework for financing it, your DBN, your CBN, your BOI are not able to intervene for the ICT sector. So what we have is foreign capital coming in to tap into the huge potential of the ICT sector. I told you something when we were discussing before this program. I said, look, if the Nigerian government today brings in a foreign ICT company from maybe the US or the UK or Russia to develop some of the programs we are running in Nigeria today, you would be shocked that close to 40% of the guys who they would put on the program to develop this infrastructure are people who a Nigerian agency developing ICT had sponsored on scholarship abroad to go study ICT. But because we don't yet have a policy that says, for instance, NID that is meant to develop ICT in Nigeria should in the next 3-4 years send people on scholarship to go study XYZ a component of the ICT industry, and they should come back to help developing the IT sector in Nigeria. It's not happening. So We first need to have a structured approach to intervening for ICT. When that approach is put in place, you will then see financiers saying, okay, because there's a structure in place. Government is saying, maybe for instance, if you lend to the ICT sector based on this criteria, these conditions, and it fails, we'll be able to pay you back the expected amount, give you a payback. Or lend through this criteria, you will get this incentive from us. We don't have all of that in place. So you don't have foreign capital coming in to tap into the huge potential of the ICT sector in Nigeria. And at the end of the day, we don't benefit much from it.
So in just a summary, how do you think we should proceed here? We can't wait for everything to happen at once. So how do you think we should proceed? Just to summarize, put it all together, there are existing SMEs that need funding. I have a production studio or for movie, for whatever. I have some assets that I tried to raise up through savings from salaries, money borrowed from friends and whatever. And I need more capital to do much more.
Okay, so on the government side, what government needs to do, and I have keep saying it over a period of time, we need to have an MSME development plan. MSME is the micro, small, medium enterprise. We often miss out that micro part of it, but the micros constitute over 50% of the entire small business in Nigeria. We need to have a plan that says this is how I want to develop MSMEs in every sector, or at least the key and important sectors for us, the creative, the ICT, renewable energy. This is how we need to develop them, bearing in mind how other country peers develop their own sectors. Now, once we have that, we can then begin to pay more attention to non-financial services. I will tell you something. You can have the best ICT skills in the world. If you don't have the business sense, you wouldn't make much gain from your ICT skills. So we need to, on the one hand, have an MSME development plan that says, this is how we intend to develop the MSME sector in Nigeria. Then on the other hand, this is how we intend to support those who are upcoming, those who are startups, those who have their skills but they don't know how to go about developing their skills. So that on the one hand, we are developing a framework for supporting them and also a framework for enabling them to even be known and identified in the first place. Until we have this MSME development plan, the interventions will not work.
Celestine Okeke, team lead at SEEDI. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We thank you very much for speaking with us this morning, and of course, enjoy your weekend.